All right, and we are live. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Warriors After Dark. No, but in all seriousness, tough game
I'm
for the Warriors
leaving.
out there.
I'm going.
Tough game for the Warriors out there, but all of us at Pucknology wish all the Warriors fans best of luck in Game 7. Hopefully, you guys can bring home a second consecutive championship. Uh, but want to thank everybody for coming out to watch Pucknology Writers Room. This is our second show. Last time we talked about goalies, we talked about the Panthers jersey, and we talked about the World Cup of Hockey rosters. And we have a really great show lined up for y'all tonight with a fantastic panel. And first on our panel, we have Kevin Lacy, our very own Gary Bettman impersonator. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, I wasn't going to do Gary Bettman, but if you guys subscribe and leave some comments in the chat, I just might do it. But I do actually have it. Well, I guess now I have to do it. Breaking news here on Pucknology Writers Room. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to the Detroit Red Wings.
What?
Unbelievable. All right, that didn't really happen, but do I have everyone's attention now?
Ah, you suck, Kevin. You suck. That's what happens when I don't have Twitter up when I do this. All right. Next to our resident troll now, apparently, we have Felix Chow. You can find him at PolterPuck on Twitter. What's up, Felix?
What's up? Nothing much. Just looking forward to our discussion today.
All right. And finally, we have Aidan. You can find him at Aidan Pucknology on Twitter. How you doing, Aidan?
What's up?
All right.
Go
ahead.
No, sorry.
All right, I'm Drew. You can find me at Puck Over Glass on Twitter. I'll be your host today. I'd like to remind everybody this show is interactive. You can comment on the Google chat. That's next to this video. You can also tweet at us using the hashtag Pucknology Writers Room. I'll be checking that. Now, bear in mind, this is my first time hosting any kind of show like this, so I might suck at checking those things to start. So bear with me on this, please. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. And first of all, on the trade front, yesterday, the Chicago Blackhawks traded Teuvo Teravainen and Brian Bickle to the Carolina Hurricanes for a 2016 second-round pick and a 2017 third-round pick. Now, this looks like a salary dump for the Chicago Blackhawks. They're up against the cap. But what are your guys' thoughts on this deal? What does this do for Chicago, and what does this do for Carolina, and who do you think came out ahead? I'll go ahead and start with Kevin.
I think that, well, I have my Carolina jersey back here tonight. Don't worry, I'm a Sharks fan, guys. But I think Carolina won this deal pretty hands down. They get a top-flight prospect-ish player in Teravainen, because he's now been in the league for parts of 3 seasons. I don't think that Brian Bickle is done in the NHL, and I know Carolina sure hopes he's not done in the NHL, and I would actually like to rant on that later on. But Chicago ends up with 2 draft picks, decent draft picks, but, I mean, if Bickle wasn't involved, you would look at it and go, Teravainen for a second and third?
So. Yeah, I felt the same way. It's very, like I said, that trying to get rid of Bickle's salary, it's amazing that they put that much on it. Let's throw it over to Aidan.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Carolina won the trade. But when you look at it from a Chicago perspective, they were right up against the cap hit. Next season, they have Artemi Panarin. He's a free agent. And actually, I've been talking to, since I'm from Chicago, all my buddies who I talk to who are into hockey, they've been saying that they don't mind Teravainen being gone too much. I mean, obviously, he's a really good player and everything, but they just don't think he really fit with the system. I mean, last season he wasn't as good as he was in the playoffs a couple of years ago, so they're not too worried about it. I still think that he's a really young and talented player, so Carolina definitely won the trade.
All right, and Felix?
Yeah, sorry I lost connection, but don't worry, the AOL connection is not for me. But anyway, I think that Carolina definitely did win this trade. You have a pretty, top prospect in Teuvo Teravainen. Obviously, the whole Brian Bickle thing was just the salary dump, but I think, I really think this bodes well for Carolina's future, and I really do see great things ahead for them. And Chicago, I think they still have the talent, but all in all, it's a win for Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, here are my thoughts on it. Like, I really don't like the move for Chicago. I mean, obviously, you needed to get rid of that Bickle contract. You got a lot of stuff going on. You're right up against the salary cap. But if I were them, I would have bought Bickle out as opposed to trying to move him. Had they done a buyout, he would have counted $1 million against the cap this coming season, and then 1.5 million the following season, and then after that, he wouldn't have counted against the cap at all. So that would give you about 7 million this offseason to re-sign Shaw, who's going to be your biggest signing if you're not going to do Ladd, and then to fill out the rest of your roster. But instead, they try to deal Bickle, and then you have to lose Teravainen just so you can get a little bit extra cap space. And I don't know what they're going to do with that extra $2 million that they got from the salary dump. Those 2 picks that they got, they're probably not going to pan out to be as good as Teravainen eventually will be. And like I said, you're not re-signing Ladd, so what are you going to do with that extra money? But on the other side of it, if I'm Carolina, I mean, you have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds of this coming draft. You have a bunch of cap space to play with in the offseason. And you're adding to a young core group that already has Jeff Skinner, Hampus Lindholm, Justin Falk, and Noah Hannafin. So I really like this move for Carolina. It sucks for Chicago that the cost of dumping Bickle's salary was Teravainen. Any other thoughts on this, guys?
I think Aidan brings up. I think Aidan brings up a good point about it sucks losing them, but they have other guys that can go in. They got Ryan Hartman, who's in the minors and ready. Mark McNeil's been sitting in the minors for how many years? I don't even know if he's NHL, going to be an NHL player or this anymore. Vincent Hinostroza is looking like he's going to be an NHL player. So they have guys to replace Teravainen, especially considering Teravainen was stuck on the 4th line anyway. Sorry, Aidan, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Well, and also with the whole salary cap thing, also, was it? I think it's Panarin. He has $2.5 million of royalties he's going to be getting as well. So I mean, that's even more against the Blackhawks. I think that they made the move to move. They had to get Teravainen, but I feel like they really want to get Bickle out and his entire cap, how much they're paying him, gone. Because now today they signed Richard Panik, I believe, to a 1-year deal worth a couple million. And I'm sure they're going to try and sign Shaw, and then depending on how much the cap level increases, they may even send Ladd a deal with that extra money too. See if he takes that. Yeah,
that Panarin bonus is really screwing him over because, like you said, it's $2.5 million on top of his salary. And granted, his salary isn't that much. It's like $800,000 or something like that. But it kind of sucks that you have to pay an extra $2.5 million to a guy who had a lot of success in a season where he got knocked out in the first round. So that's kind of a ball breaker if you're Chicago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this move for Carolina. Now, something else Carolina did that many of you all know about is they extended Cam Ward to a 2-year deal with an annual average of $3.3 million. Ward won the Stanley Cup with the Hurricanes, who won the Conn Smythe that year as well, but he really hasn't done much since. So what do you guys think of the re-sign?
Because I'll go first. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of questioned it a little bit because, I mean, this was a goalie who's obviously I struggled a little bit, and like you said, he hasn't done much. And I honestly thought that Black was going to take over the starting position over there in Carolina. So I was a bit surprised that they decided to kind of re-sign him over there. But I mean, maybe he'll have a bounce back year. Maybe not. Maybe this might or might not rear its ugly head. But who knows? I guess we'll just have to see.
Aidan.
I didn't like the deal. I think that, I mean, ever since I was reading about this on Hockey News, ever since 2010, the 2010-11 season, Cam Ward, his numbers have just gone down. And I think that re-signing him, yeah, you have the familiarity and you kind of know what you're getting. I read read on there that he did improve supposedly during from December to the end of the season. But I mean, James Reimer, he's probably most likely going to be a free agent. Possibly with Fleury, you could try and contact the Penguins about him. I mean, there are goalies, Al Montoya. You could try with all of them, and there are more. I think that they're more capable goalies than Cam Ward because it looks like his best days are behind him.
I don't think Cam Ward is as bad as people make him out to be. He's not a top-flight goalie. He's not an all-star goalie. He's not even, to me, a number one goalie. Maybe a number one B goalie. I think that the contract is a head-scratcher. I know that's the news that I woke up to this morning, and that was a good way to wake up in terms of, instead of bashing my alarm in. But man, that's a lot of money for a guy that could be sitting for 40 to 50 games, and then they don't know if Eddie Lack is going to be their starting goalie, so they might rely on Ward. My thought is they've got a lot of cap space, so Cam Ward's not going to hurt them in that respect. But we've been hearing about rumors of Cam Ward being traded since 2009? And so it's quite surprising that he's going to be there for another 2 years, and probably 2 more years of the rumor mongers saying Carolina's got to get rid of Cam Ward. Because both Ward and Lack are UFAs in 2 years. So who is the heir apparent there? Because if it's not going to be Lack, it's not going to be Ward. I don't think they're setting themselves up very good for the future.
Yeah, like you said, I think this is like a kind of why the hell not deal for the Hurricanes. Like, you've got a whole bunch of cap space. You're under the cap floor right now. You're just throwing money everywhere. That's why you take that Bickle contract. But it's like his numbers are below average in pretty much every marker. He hasn't done anything since winning the Cup. And because you have a lot of cap space and a lot of assets, there's so many other things you could have done. James Reimer is going to hit free agency because we know San Jose is not going to re-sign him. You could have made a trade with Dallas to get either Lettinen or Niemi. Now, granted, Lettinen and Niemi, not that great, but I think they're better than Cam Ward. Or, heck, you could have even made a deal with Anaheim to get the rights to Friedrich Andersen because he's an RFA this offseason. So they could have done all of that, and then, like you said, Eddie Lack is still a thing. Granted, he's not very proven because he's never been a starter, a full-time starter. At least he split games in Vancouver. But I think going to him is a better option than going to Ward, who's already shown that he can't lead your team anymore. So those are my thoughts. Someone brought up that, actually it's Pucknology After Dark, that it's more of to hold the team over until all those young guys get good, and then they bring in a good goalie. What do you guys think of that? Anyone?
I think Carolina's ready to push for the postseason now. They just barely missed the playoffs this year. Not barely as in like 2 points, but they were in contention until like 2 weeks left in the season. Carolina's not as bad as people think, and Bill Peters is a much better coach than people give credit for as well. They just got to work on their roster. I'm trying to remember what Aidan brought up. Aidan, you made another good free agency. Carolina with the Peter Carmona situation, though, guys, is that really a hot spot for free agents like James Reimer to want to go to? They might have just looked at Cam Ward and been like, we don't know if we can sign anybody, and Cam Ward is proven here, so let's just go with what we know.
I can totally see that, yeah. And there's a point you brought up. Damn it. You talk about Carolina being in contention. They were 10 points out of the playoffs this last season, but they had 16 overtime losses. So yeah, it's like you win some of those games, and you might be in the postseason. And I'm willing to bet that, yeah, Carolina makes the playoffs this season. They're probably coming in as a second wild card spot. They may even be the team with the lowest points in the entire postseason, but I think they have a chance at actually making it.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead. Okay, so honestly, like I said, I think this team does have a bright future, and I mean, I guess Cam Ward, like, well, I guess while you do take the risk of, kind of sticking with him as a starting goalie, I do understand, like, just sticking with what you know and just, you know, I guess just riding him, hoping that, you can make the playoffs and. Maybe they can. It's like and like I said before. It's we'll see what happens. Exactly with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think that Carolina really is just their one good goalie, or their good starting goalie, solid goalie, from making the playoffs again. You just got Teravainen last season. The team that they had on the ice really wasn't that bad. Like you guys were saying, they're in playoff contention until the last couple of weeks. I think that if they get a goalie that can steal them some games, they can make the playoffs again.
Yeah, that was the real head scratch for me because I believe that the Hurricanes can make the playoffs, but goaltending definitely is that biggest question mark for them, as well as how the young kids are going to perform with another year of development kind of thing. So we'll see how that works out for them. Maybe they try to deal Cam Ward to somebody. I doubt anyone will want to take him, but we'll see where that goes. Any other?
Yeah, Cam Ward can get them into the playoffs. I think. I don't think he can get them to win in the playoffs. One round with luck. Ian Reed in the chat brought up that Alex Nedeljkovic is the goalie of the future for Carolina, and he is. But you're setting yourself up. Carolina's setting themselves up to lose both of their goalies here in 2 years. Is Nedeljkovic going to be ready in 2 years to be the guy and maybe not even have a proven backup behind him? Because I don't know if Altschuler is going to ever be an NHL goalie. So, I liked your comment about Anderson though. That would be an interesting.
As you know, Anaheim's going to want to sell Anderson because they have John Gibson. So you just trade for his rights and hopefully you can reach a deal with him. Now, if Anderson would want to sign in Carolina is another story.
You know what I just thought of right now? So, as we know, the Peter Carmano situation, and is Carolina going to stay? Anaheim trades Anderson to Carolina to get him out of their conference, and then the Hurricanes move to Seattle and move into the Pacific Division.
Get absolutely wrecked by relocation. That's what every team needs, is to trade out of the conference. But now you got to think about, all right, is this team just going to move back into the West in like 3 years? All right. Moving on to some coaching news. First of all, Mike Yeo, the former coach of the Minnesota Wild, is announced to be the head coach of the St. Louis Blues in the coming season to replace Hitchcock. But I think the more exciting news is Randy Carlyle is going to be back coaching the Anaheim Ducks. Now, he won the Cup with Anaheim in 2007, but he's only won one playoff series since leaving Anaheim, and he hasn't coached since January after being fired by the Leafs. So my question, I guess, is Carlyle really going to be an improvement over Bruce Boudreau? Let's go with Aidan.
I'm not really sure. I mean, he was the coach when the Ducks won their only Stanley Cup back in 07 or something. I don't know, something like that. But I mean, after that, when he went to the Leafs, he made the playoffs once, and then didn't they lost to the Bruins in like that third period mess. I don't think that he's a better coach. I mean, this is a different team. I mean, it's not like he's coming back. It's the same guys or something. He could just find a spark again. But I mean, I do think after losing in Game 7s in the playoffs, I think it was time to go with someone else. Maybe they're obviously trying to regain that spark that he had, but I think after the Maple Leafs and everything, I think it may be too late.
Kevin.
what I am perplexed by is the players wanted Carlisle out, and half of that roster is still there. And from what they're talking about in the media, Perry, Getzlaff, and some other guys are like, "Oh no, we got to bring back Carlisle." So what changed there that they were spearheading the "get rid of Randy Carlisle" front, and then now it's, "Please come back, we love you"? Because isn't Bruce Boudreau supposed to be a players coach? So I don't get it with Carlisle. And from what they're saying, he's changed. But what does that really mean? Oh.
We have a special appearance from Ian Reed. Ian, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Not much. Yeah, I got a haircut. Just wanted to come on and kind of first say thanks, guys, for running with this, even though I kind of bailed at the last minute. I just want to go back to the Carolina thing for a second, just because it's interesting. I think I agree that Carolina is a team that's close to contention. The thing is, though, this is a team that's still, I think, as of today, still $6 million below the cap floor. So I feel like with all the uncertainty, I don't think Karmanos wants to spend very much money. I think this is still going to be a very close to the floor team. I think if they make playoffs, then it's kind of gravy. It's extra money that he can stuff in his jeans that gets completely taken away because he's so far in debt. But to me, I don't think that there's I really don't think that. I think it's a stopgap. It's a guy they know. It's a guy that they know that can win him some games. But at the end of the day, I think Carolina has no interest in being competitive. I think he just wants to keep the team afloat with as spending as little as possible to try and see what happens with this whole debt situation. I don't know. That's just my quick thoughts on that thing. As for Randy Carlisle, as a fan in the Pacific Division that's not the Anaheim Ducks, thank you very much. It's an excellent hire.
Yeah, I just did not understand why you would bring Carlisle back in. Or actually, I mean, in the first place, I wasn't totally on board with why would you fire Boudreau. I mean, you look at Carlisle, he won the Cup in 07 with a totally stacked team. I mean, he had Chris Pronger and Scott Niedermayer as the top D pair. You should win a Cup with them. And, I mean, granted, Carlisle hasn't been given a very good team to work with since leaving Anaheim. I mean, Toronto's not exactly the best team in the world. Like Aidan said, they did have that 7-game series against Boston, but they collapsed at the end of that. So I don't think Carlisle is going to be any better than a coach who won you 4 Pacific Division championships in a row. So I don't get it. I just don't get it at all.
Yeah, it's like you went in and you went to the car dealership and you said, "Here's my Mercedes. Give me that Pinto."
Yeah, I like Pintos.
My thoughts, real quick. I honestly, a lot of years, I didn't get this hiring at all. I mean, he was fired. I felt like if he was fired, sure, he led them to a cup like we all alluded to. But I mean, if he was fired, he had to have been fired for a certain reason, and and really, again, I'm going back to that question I believe Kevin asked. What changed? Like, really, what changed with him? What made him, such a welcome option for the Ducks now? That with Boudreau's firing. So I mean, I'm interested in seeing, how he handles the Ducks this time.
Was he cheap? Maybe, I don't know. I know the Ducks are kind of a budget team, so maybe he just, the price was right.
I mean, that could be a factor too. I mean, personality-wise and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe Bob Murray needed a buddy to go across the street from Honda Center to have a brewski at JT Schmidt's or something with, and Randy Carlisle was the best option. Sure.
Randy Carlisle is the best bro available.
He's the best.
Just a little side note. I mean, I kind of brushed over this briefly, but what do you guys think of Mike Yeo in St. Louis? I'll go with Ian because he looks like he's thinking really hard and has a great idea.
Thinking really hard. This is one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen as far as like hockey goes. Like I've never seen a coach hired. Like I don't remember any time that's like you're going to be the coach next year. Um, I- it's an interesting choice for sure. I feel like it's quite the departure from Hitchcock, which I think will make Blues fans happy. But you know, is Mike Yeo the guy that's going to lead the Blues over the hump? I don't see it. I think they should have just waited it out. And I know they didn't want that to be the question over and over and over again, but I feel like having him there, it just makes Hitchcock even more of a, he's kind of a lame duck already, but now he's like a lame duck because his heir apparent is waiting. And if the Blues, go down in a pile of flames to start the season, do they fire Hitchcock and just give the job to Yeo then, or do they fire both of them, or you know what I mean? It's like it's such a weird situation.
It's almost like having you as your assistant coach, and when you're gone, he's the one taking over the throne. Not sure how comfortable that'd make me.
I mean, at least he knows like that next year's the end of the line anyway, regardless. Like he's already kind of said that this is my last year coaching and then I'm done coaching. But even still, it's such a weird dynamic. Even if you know that yes, this is my last year, but it's still such a weird thing, because obviously I think Mike Yeo is going to still want to see some things that are going to be able to transition to his game next year. So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think this is one of those. Okay, so Ken Hitchcock is going to be retiring from coaching, so let's just bring in put him in for now and see what happens. And I think this is one of those, I guess. Is a one of those shots in the dark, so to speak. I just think that we don't know how Yeo is gonna actually go with the players, the locker room, and whether or not his strategy is actually gonna bode well with the Blues even. So I don't know.
I just think it's interesting that Yeo would take the job with Hitchcock still there, as opposed to trying to go someplace else. I mean, granted, off the top of my head, I don't know how many options are out there for him. I just thought it like you said, having two coaches basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that St. Louis is a pretty different team than Minnesota in terms of size and speed and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how Yeo's coaching style is going to mesh with the St. Louis personnel. Kevin, Aidan, any thoughts from you guys?
I'll let Aidan go first.
Yeah, his first thing is he assistant coach right now? Is he going to be? I thought I read somewhere that he was going to be the assistant coach, associate coach. That's got to be pretty awkward then for them to see each other. No, I think. I mean, this is kind of like with the Bruce Boudreau situation. St. Louis, they've never really been able to get over the hump. They're just trying with. I guess it's worth a shot. I don't think he's gonna lead him to a cup or anything like that. But whatever. I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was
first off, a little shtick here. Since it's Ken Hitchcock we're talking about, and he's apparently now the king of the press conference. I'm wondering if Mike Yeo is hired to be the opening act before Ken Hitchcock took the stage. But it is. I don't think the departure from Hitchcock as with Yeo as coach is a bad thing. That team kind of needs. I don't know if they need a new identity, but they're boring to watch. And I don't know if Mike Yeo is the most exciting coach or anything. 'Cause heck, I don't even know how he really affected Minnesota. I think what's nice about him being in St. Louis here in the future is the fact that we're really going to find out what kind of coach Mike Yeo is. But this could let some of the younger, more skilled guys break out. Now, we saw Tarasenko and Fabry both have great years. They're very skilled. But that's showing a lot of skill in a system that basically says no skill, all defense, all clog everything up. Imagine if those guys were let free. Yeo might be able to bring that. And then the other thing I just wanted to say, I just got a text from my friend Sean, who's kind of my Anaheim insider, and my brewski guy at JT Schmidt's across the street from Honda Center. He says, I think that Bob Murray is in a win-now situation because he only has 2 years left on his deal as GM.
Ooh.
So he might have brought Carlisle in because they got to win now, as opposed to bringing in Mike Yeo to Anaheim or Paul McLean or something where they're not as experienced and nobody really knows what they have. At least Carlisle is a proven winner in one situation. Maybe that's why he's there.
That's interesting too, because I remember Anaheim's GM saying that there may be some shakeup with the core players too after they lost to Nashville in Game 7. So we'll see what happens in this offseason, because if they want to shake up the core players, to me that says rebuild. But I don't see why Anaheim would want to rebuild. But who knows? Who knows what's going on down there?
Well, the Sharks.
I remember.
And
Kevin.
I was just saying the Sharks were in a rebuild, and then yeah, we all know that worked out real well. Wait, it did work out real well. Go ahead, Aidan.
Aidan, go ahead.
Yeah, I do remember after the Game 7, after Anaheim lost, NBC, the GM was saying how not even core, the core was safe from trades and that stuff. So it at that time seemed like they were burning. And I would love to see them burn. Maybe ship out Perry or something.
All right. Any other comments about the coaching situations that have come up? I will take the silence as a no.
It's weird, and we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the buyouts. All right. So it's the time of the year when teams are buying out players. They're taking those considerations. The Toronto Maple Leafs are buying out Jared Cowan. The Flyers bought out R.J. Umberger this morning. And just to make things a little bit more interesting, the Los Angeles Kings has stripped Justin Brown of the captaincy, which makes me happy for so many reasons. And they're giving it to Anze Kopitar. So that, while it doesn't necessarily mean that Brown is going to be bought out, it could definitely be a precursor to it. So my question to you guys is, who in the NHL is going to be bought out? Will it be Brown? Will it be Girardi? I mean, who do you guys see? Let's go with Felix. I don't think I've made you go first yet.
Yeah. For me, I think one possible candidate would be, and I think this has been talked about a little bit. And I've seen some tweets about it. Thomas Vanek. I mean, he hasn't been a a positive factor for Minnesota, and obviously, he struggled. As I look through my notes here, so he essentially suffered an injury. He was sidelined for the entire postseason, and he has a no movement clause, and he only had 18 goals in 74 games, which was the lowest in his lowest goal totals in his career. But here's the interesting thing now, and I actually dug this quote up. According to his agent, if Chuck, of course Chuck Lester, the GM, if Chuck knew he was going to buy him out by now, I would think I would know by now. So obviously, whether or not the Minnesota Wild are going to buy him out, still remains to be seen. But I think he's a likely candidate.
Aidan.
I think Dave Bolland of the Florida Panthers. I think he may get bought out. I was reading this also on the Hockey News. They were doing guys who may get bought out, and I think with him it really is because he's played I think like 58 games over the past couple years combined. He's only got he's got 28 points or something like that, and he's taken up $3.67 million in cap space. I think that's what he's on right now. So I could definitely see the Panthers again some more, maybe another bottom 6 guy or something like that with that money.
I could see that. Kevin, who do you think is going to get bought out?
I'm gonna rant, but I'm gonna wait till the end before I rant.
You want me to pick someone else first?
No, well, I do want to talk about Bolin since Aidan brought him up. That one makes sense to me because Florida has a lot of young forwards, and they've got guys pushing for spots. Boland, he can contribute, but he's injured all the time, and then he didn't play a game after December 12th this season. Part of that was he was a healthy scratch. I don't know if he was really injured, and then he got put on injured reserve for the season, and I don't know if that was just, well, we need to stash you aside, little boy. But Boland's definitely a candidate. I think another candidate would be Chris Higgins of Vancouver. That kind of gets to where I wanted to rant about, but I'll just quickly say I don't think Higgins should get bought out by Vancouver because Vancouver is going nowhere. I think we're on all agreement with that. They're going nowhere, so why rush young players into your lineup that may not be ready when you can have a guy like Chris Higgins at least eating up a roster spot for a year and letting the younger guys develop first?
Well, how will they know who they're going to trade to the Panthers next?
No, yeah, I feel like Vancouver isn't going to go anywhere as long as the Sedins are on the team. Now, that's not to say that the Sedins are bad or anything like that. They're very good, but they're chewing up a lot of cap space. So I think Vancouver can't really do much until they're gone. My two picks for buyouts are Dustin Brown. He has 6 years left at almost $6 million. He hasn't had more than 30 points in a season since 2012, and when you're getting paid that much, you should have close to 30 goals in a season. And LA has a few people that they need to re-sign in the future. Dan Girardi from the New York Rangers, I think, is going to get bought out as well. Granted, the team isn't strapped for cash at this moment, but over the next 2 years, they need to re-sign 75% of their forward group. They only have 4 forwards signed past 2 years from now. So I think if you buy out Girardi, you can use that money to help sign some bottom-tier players and stuff like that. Ian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so certain that I think that if anything, I think they try to move Dustin Brown. I don't think they buy him out. This is a team that's already dealing with some recapture penalty plus whatever settlement they have with Mike Richards. So they're already, I think that that's eating up to $2 million depending on the year against their cap already. With the cap kind of stagnating, I think it's, do they really want to add more dead money to their cap number? I'm not so sure that would be the brightest idea. A guy I think that probably I think Dallas needs to buy one of their goalies. If I'm Dallas, I probably buy out Kari Lehtinen.
The thing with Dallas though, and we kind of brought it up in the last writers' room, is when expansion happens, that's when you're kind of like, okay, take one of our goalies.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of if they want to wait for it or not. I could also see some other bottom feeder teams who are around the cap floor take one of the goalies, but who knows? I can see Dallas buying out one of Lehtinen or Niemi, but if I were them, I wouldn't.
Here's my question, though. Who's playing defense for the Dallas Stars next year? They basically have Oduya and Klingberg under contract. You have Nemeth, and then you have like Stephen Johns. Like they're all just there's not they're gonna have to sign 2 defensemen, and they're gonna need some money to do that with. They're gonna have maybe about $13 million to play with, but they're really, their salary cap issue is really top heavy, and when you have that 10.4 getting killed by goalies, they might have to try and, they might have to eat the bullet a little bit to try and see if they can get some more defense under contract, because right now, like, their defense is non-existent.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's what I was actually going to bring up but in a different tone. I mentioned it on the last writer's room. They need the money to sign some quality defensemen to make a push for the cup. But at the same time, it's not going to happen. And they still have to get defensemen in there. So if you buy out one of your goalies and then you can't get the defenseman anyway, what was the point of buying out the goalie? You're not going to the Cup anyway. You could have at least gotten some service out of Niemi or Lettinen, and you're paying them either way. But I don't know. I don't know. Dallas, you suck.
That defense situation is made even more interesting by the Goligoski move. Arizona acquired the rights to Goligoski for, I believe, a 5th-round pick this year. So that's a little bit interesting. The GM commented on Arizona's new GM, the kid, the kindergartner, was saying, they needed someone who plays a game like Goligoski. So we'll see how that plays out. That's the first. I believe that's the first move by this new GM. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think this is like the first trade type thing is doing, something like that.
The first relevant thing.
Jake is young enough that
he turns out to be a bust.
And Goligoski's going to be a bust?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm saying if he turns out to be a bust, though, he's going to be under some close scrutiny, though.
Oh, definitely.
So young and everything.
Kevin, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah. I was just going to say something stupid. Don't worry about it.
And did you get your rant out of the way?
No!
Go for it.
Let's hear this. I can hear this.
I feel like buyouts these days are a way of saying, or there's this stigma attached to them about, well, this player can't play in the NHL anymore, that's why he's being bought out. And that drives me nuts. A guy like Brian Bickle is still serviceable. Okay, he didn't have any goals last year in the playoffs for their Stanley Cup run, but he had a decent regular season for them, and it was one of his more productive seasons. You don't just start sucking over one summer. The guy had 16 goals the 2 previous playoff runs, and suddenly now, he's definitely got to be bought out by Chicago. I don't even if it's a cap issue. It's not a cap issue. He's terrible. No, he's not. And now all this Dustin Brown talk. Drew, I'm so glad that you brought up valid points about Dustin Brown's buyout and why they really need the money. Because all of a sudden, everyone's jumping on this bandwagon like, yeah, Dustin Brown's terrible. $5.5 million. What a waste. I hate Dustin Brown, but he is definitely still an NHL player. He was the captain. Lombardi, we don't know how much we believe Lombardi, but Lombardi's going to use our greatest captain in our franchise history. And now suddenly it's he can't play in the NHL anymore. He's got to be bought out. Get rid of him forever. And I hate this stigma about buyouts.
And the thing is, it's like, it's not that Dustin Brown doesn't belong in the NHL anymore. But you have to re-sign Trevor Lewis this season. Versteeg and Lucic are free agents. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the latest stance on the Lucic negotiations were. And next year you have to re-sign Toffoli, King, and Pearson. So, yeah, it's not that Dustin Brown doesn't belong in the league anymore. It's just he doesn't belong in the league for that much money for that long, especially when you have those players that you need to re-sign in the very near future.
I think just the Wade Redden thing just started this whole deal. Stash him in the minors. Well, now you can't really do that with the way the CBA is, so buy him out. But Wade Redden was still a decent defenseman. Sorry, it just heats me.
Something that was brought up in a chat a little bit earlier. Actually, I think it was Puck Guy that said it. What do you do if Tomas Hertl gets offer sheeted in the offseason? He's an RFA, so how much is enough to let him go, kind of thing? Ian, let's go to you.
I think I would be really, really leery to keep him at anything over 5. I think if you get up into 5-6 years of a silly amount of term, I think that you take the draft picks. Look at this. You got to go to a season next year where the money's already going to be tight, and then on top of that, you have to pay Brent Burns next year. And if Hurdle was signed to, like, to me, Hurdle should come in, I think 5 years, 4.5 million's probably my comfort level with Hurdle, and it's probably the higher end of my comfort level for Hurdle. $5 or $6 million for Hurdle right now just seems a little crazy to me.
Yeah, I was thinking Hurdle, I would go 4-4. I don't know how much he would like that, but 4-4 sounds fair. Any higher than that, yeah, I may be willing to take the picks. Kevin, what do you think?
Well, I guess in a way, Hurdle's injury status came at a good time because the Sharks can't actually use that as leverage to get his salary back down. I think any player is expendable for the right price. So I don't really. It's one of those things. Give me a situation, and I'd say, yeah, I'd keep him, or no, I wouldn't. It's a good thing that Chicago is in the salary situation that they are, so that they can't get a revenge offer sheet for us stealing Niemi with the whole Hjalmarsson situation.
Felix, what do you think?
I think since I'm not necessarily a salary guru or anything like that, but I guess around I guess at around maybe 5 or something like that. I guess just and maybe either keep it or graphics or something. I don't know. Again, not a salary guru.
Aidan.
I'd probably re-sign him. I do 4 years. I'm gonna 4.2 million, something like that. That's probably what I'd go with him. I mean, he's a very good player.
And he's somebody who's planned to be the future of our team, and curious to see how he's going to perform when Jumbo's gone, because he does benefit from playing on that top line with him.
Well, that's the thing. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that's the thing. At the beginning of the season, he was on that. This season, he was on the third line. It was like him. Was it Tierney and it was a young line, I thought, and he wasn't doing anything, and then he got moved up with the production. You got Jumbo, you got Pavs, and they're helping you score and everything. But I mean, when he was centering a third line, and they really weren't doing much. So the question is, can he stay at this high level when he's got when he doesn't have these elite players with him?
Yeah, Hurdle is yet to prove himself with anyone other than Joe Thornton on his line.
He did have a brief stint with, I believe, Marlowe and Ward when Couture was out, and if I remember right, he did pretty well at that. I think the issue is putting him at center. I don't think he does as well as a center as he does as a winger.
I think it depends on what you want him to do too, because when they put him on the third line, they weren't scoring a lot of goals, but that was a good energy possession line. I thought that they still drove possession. He still drove possession really well. Yeah, the pucks weren't going in the net, but that was a good third line shutdown line as we had this year, I thought. But obviously, Hurdle, you want to see him score goals because he's such a he's a high draft pick, so you don't really want to see him become the fourth round forward instead of the first round forward. But I wasn't totally the pucks weren't going in the net, but there was still a lot of value to what he'd done on the third line, I found.
Interesting, and I think you see a lot of that. Like take this postseason for example. You have Chris Tierney's line, that third line. Wasn't really a scoring line, but they were doing good things out there. They were driving the possession. They were doing a good job at playing defensive hockey. But I'm not sure how much I'd want to pay Hurdle just to do that. I'd rather pay him to score goals, considering we're going to lose Joe Thornton kind of thing. Granted, he's not a goal scorer, but he's making a lot of those goals happen.
I still think Joe. I don't know. I feel like Jumbo's got one more contract on the Sharks left in him. I think if there's no room left on the island for somebody, it's Marlowe. And I know we're gonna probably get crapped on in the chat for that, but I mean, look, you have to bring back Burns. That's not even an option. That's number one. And then you have to choose between Thornton and Marleau. And are you going to take the guy who's still playing at a high level on the first line, distributing the puck, making Pavelski and Turtle look way better than they actually are? Or do you want Patrick Marleau? I sometimes play on Couture's wing and have no chemistry, and then sometimes I get put the third line center because I'm not really doing anything. I mean, to me, it's if you approach it from a logical and not an emotional standpoint, it's Joe Thornton going away. Like, I love Patrick Marleau, but I don't love him at $6.6 million, and there's no room for him after this deal, and that's just harsh reality. And I think that if you can't accept that, then that's fine, I guess, but you're making an emotional decision instead of a logical one, and that's not how you win a hockey game.
Yeah, I mean, Marlowe's play has just declined over the past few years. When we went out and did the Pollock and Spalling deal, and Doug Wilson made the reference that this second round pick or these second round picks, they can be replaced, the first thing that screamed in my head was that's what Patrick Marleau's for, is to replace those second round picks. Mm-hmm. So I can totally see him being gone this offseason, even if he plays out his contract. I don't think he comes back after that. I agree with Ian in that I could see Thornton signing a one-year deal when this coming contract is done, but I think that's a decision better made next year to see how he performs.
Yeah, I think as for the whole Thornton Marleau thing, I think if you be smart, Thornton stays and Marleau maybe keep him for like, I don't know, half a year, like until the trade deadline, get him for draft picks. Like Thornton, I see him, getting signed to a 1 year as well, and I mean he's still got it obviously, and so yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah, can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah. With Marleau, I mean, regarding his deal and everything, I think after, I mean, even if he does, stay in San Jose and play and everything, I doubt he'd even want to come back if Sharks don't win the Cup. Just because, with the post-game interviews and all that stuff, it could have been in the heat of the moment or something. But I remember when Kurz asked him, do you want to come back? What do you think about play? Or do you want to come back to San Jose and play next year? He said yeah, and Kurz was saying how he didn't sound too convinced. And I think personally, with all he's spent his whole career in San Jose, I think with all the playoff disappointment and not getting a cup, he either wants to go to a team that can win a cup, and that's why he chose the Kings and the Ducks and the Rangers as his trade candidates, or he just, I don't think he wants to come back here afterwards if they don't win the cup.
I don't know if it's so much about not winning as it is how he's getting utilized now. Like, I feel like, I mean, there's a lot of fans in denial about what Marleau's value to this team is right now, and I think there's a little bit of denial in him where he stands as a hockey player. There was a lot of talk during the playoffs when he was on that third line that he was very unhappy there, even though that was obviously was best for the team, and which is why he accepted the role to be to be on the team. But I don't know if. I think it's not a matter of winning. I think it's an issue of, is he happy in the role that he has, which I think on this team, he's better suited to that third line center role, to be honest. I really don't feel like there's a lot of chemistry there between Couture and Marleau at this point.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think either the fans or even him, he's got to face the reality that, either he does, play as is utilized, or his time in San Jose is going to be very limited. That's why obviously, these rumors that's why these rumors have been circulating. That's fed into the frustration level or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, obviously he's got to step up in his game if he wants to stay in San Jose, or it's the inevitable is going to happen. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, the clock's ticking on Patrick Marleau. He's not going to be around much longer, no matter what happens. On a little bit of a brighter note, this is obviously the first time Sharks have made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Granted, you lose in 6, you're maybe a little bit bitter about that, but it's a huge accomplishment to get this far, and there are a lot of great things that happened this season. So to kind of close this episode out, I want to hear what your guys' favorite moments of the season were. Like, if you had to pick one moment that you could relive over and over again, what would that moment be? I'll go with Kevin because he looks happy.
Oh, I was like, one moment. I got 6 down here.
You had one shot and one opportunity. Would you go for it?
Dang. Well, okay. I'm going to go with my number 2 moment because I'm pretty sure someone else is going to go with number 1. 3-on-3 overtime. We finally got 3-on-3 overtime in the NHL this year. We've been hearing about it for a couple of years in the AHL, and it was amazing because I can't stand shootout. I would honestly rather have a game end in a tie than in a shootout. I just think that you play 65 minutes of a team sport, and then you just have one guy and then another guy and whatever. I love 3-on-3 overtime. The success rate in eliminating shootouts was tremendous, and I don't know why they didn't do it sooner. So thank you, NHL, for getting that right.
Ian, your favorite moment?
My favorite moment of the whole season is the Donskoy overtime goal. Because this is Donskoy was a guy that I was so high on going into camp, and he kind of flew under a lot of people's radar, like in the Sharks media. But this is a guy that, I get to kind of pat myself on the back. So I'm like, yeah, that Donskoy guy, watch that Donskoy guy, watch that Donskoy guy, and then sure enough, he made the lineup and he was awesome. So to that overtime goal in the final, I mean, what's better than that?
And the truly amazing thing about that goal is, I think, for 22 years, the fans would say the greatest goal in Sharks history was Jamie Baker's Game 7 goal against Detroit. And now, that's probably not the case anymore to most people. I would put that Donskoy goal in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final is the greatest and the most important goal of this franchise's history. And I think it's incredible that we got to see it.
Yeah.
Felix.
I'm gonna say the 5-0 win against Nashville in Game 7. I think that was obviously, I think the advancing to the Stanley Cup Final was I think that's a close second. But to me personally, I thought Game 7 against Nashville really showed what this team is made of. That this team really just upped the ante, when the time came, and they were just ready to play, and I was just very, very impressed with how they performed that.
Yeah, and like going into that Game 7, I'm not sure how the rest of you felt, but I wasn't really that worried that the Sharks are going to lose that Game 7. I was fairly confident that San Jose was going to come out to the next round. I don't think there was a moment where I was like, this is going to be the last game of the year. Aidan, your favorite moment?
My favorite moment, probably seeing, getting on Twitter notification that we signed Roman Polak.
Do we really?
I'm just kidding.
God, you guys suck! Assholes. God damn it. You didn't even want to drink.
I know.
It's just in, the Sharks signed Johnny Gaudreau, or trade for Johnny Gaudreau.
No, I'd probably go with my favorite moment, probably seeing the team gather around or get the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl and just win the Western Conference. Seeing them after for so long, fall short and everything, and they finally win the Western Conference. They all gather around and they take the picture with it. To me, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a great moment. Mine was pretty much the same thing. The day the Sharks advanced to the Cup Finals is also the day of my college graduation, and I remember pretty much walking across the stage, getting my diploma, moving my tassel, and being like, I need to get the hell out of here. This is a hockey game I really want to see. And I just remember when the Sharks won, there's that huge celebration. They bring out the clarinet, the Campbell Bowl, and then after that, I drove down Santa Clara Street because I wanted to see the celebration. It was incredible. You know, you see the cheering, the people high-fiving each other. I saw one car with like hydraulics. I was just going crazy. And it's something I'll never forget. It's something I've never seen before, and it's something the city hasn't seen before. So, I mean, that's got to be my favorite moment. If I had to pick another one for the entire NHL, I go John Scott.
There you go.
That was incredible. The picture with him on top of Burns, Pavelski, and Giordano's shoulders. There's a picture I'll have saved on my computer until I die. So that would be my other favorite moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. Overcoming Commissioner Gary Bettman. See, I can't even do the damn. Just fire me, guys. I can't even.
We'll just boo you like Bettman.
I do want to say something about the advancing to the Stanley Cup final thing. I think, and honestly, personally, and I'm sure a lot of people felt this way too. That was unreal for me. I mean, it took about I don't know, probably a day or like a whole morning for it to finally sink in that, you know, at the time, you know, we were finally in the Stanley Cup final. It's one of those feelings that, you know, you just never forget. So you just kind of learn to cherish it and, you know, appreciate it.
Yeah, well, with
My
that,
favorite NHL moment
go for it.
was the fact that we got to have 10-minute delays for things that were a millimeter offside. That was the best.
Oh, God.
No, I wrote out a list of my 5 biggest stories, not necessarily good stories, and that actually should be in there. I think I just am trying so hard to get this instant replay out of my mind that I completely left it off my list because that's bad.
Yeah, it's so brutal. I'm sorry. It's me being sarcastic, I guess.
The thing is that like the NHL kind of rewards it. Like even if you don't win the challenge and you lose your timeout, you just got a 10-minute timeout instead. So
yeah, it's just like commercial break after icing.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Oh dear.
So
and Slushy Jake, that really made me laugh. That the newest trade that is broken here tonight on Pucknology Writers Room, please subscribe, is that we traded Puck Guy for a second chance in Game 6.
Jake,
Look at me.
that's an A+
I'm the
comment
captain
right there.
now.
This is why we love having a chat box for you guys to submit comments, because that was freaking awesome. Sorry, Eric. You being traded wasn't awesome, but the comment was hilarious.
He's counting out gently.
I have a trade to announce.
I do want to share my favorite NHL moments. I haven't actually gotten to do it yet, but I would say the whole John Scott All-Star thing, and plus the whole. Let's just put the whole All-Star thing, like put that into one whole favorite NHL moment, because one, how cute were Habs, Bernsey, and their kids. I mean, that was awesome. And then two, the Chewbacca mask was also hilariously funny. But then also three, the whole John Scott MVP thing. I mean, obviously the NHL, tried to screw it up and everything, but I mean, this goes to show that the fans, they will get what they want. Of course, they meaning us also, but the fans will get what they want eventually, and so I thought that was a really heartfelt moment, and a really awesome moment for John Scott, and of course every player out there, and the fans who watched it, and I just thought that whole entire thing was awesome.
Yeah, that whole thing was incredible, and then you have the Players Tribune article that talked all about his career and with the conversation between him and the NHL, and it was amazing. That the whole John Scott story was incredible, and to think I hated that guy, and now I'm like, oh, but he's so lovable. How could you not like him?
I was watching the Buffalo-Boston game when he obliterated Louis Eriksson in the head, and I didn't like John Scott before then, and that drove me up a wall. And when the Sharks got Scott, I was like, all right, well, they made me like Jody Shelley after I could not stand Jody Shelley. I always hear about John Scott's a really nice guy. Well, let's see. And he was all right with the Sharks. Like, I liked him on the Winter Classic, or whatever it was, Stadium Series 24/7. He was entertaining on that. But man, this All-Star game just flipped the switch, and it was like, okay, that's why all the players like John Scott. It was awesome.
Ian, you got something you want to?
Yeah, I was kind of goofing around. I haven't really been on the internet the last couple of days, and I am on Sportsnet, and I am reading Damian Cox's mock draft, which you can find mine on Pucknology, by the way. And he has Logan Stanley at 10, which is, to me, insane. Logan Stanley, for those that don't know, plays for Windsor Spitfires in the OHL. He is a 6'7", 210-pound monster. I think that spot is maybe 30 spots too high, maybe even 40, to be completely honest. Like, he's huge, but man.
Watch him actually get picked there.
Well, hey, and then I look like an idiot. Like, I didn't have him in my top 30 at all. I don't know, Kevin, where do you have Logan Stanley in your draft board?
Okay, now that I unmuted myself, I haven't ranked my players yet, but I know that ISS has him at 25.
Yeah.
So I think they did have him higher in like their mid-season ranking, and then he dropped. So yeah, to hear that he's at 10, yeah, especially considering that they're I know there's not a lot of defensemen that are expected to go in the first round. But
it's actually a pretty decent amount, actually.
I don't know.
You got 3 in the top 10. You've got a few kind of scattered out. I was actually surprised with how many there are.
Okay. Well, I guess I meant on the higher end because know we're hearing about there's a drop off in the between like the 17, 18 range or whatever. But man, I don't know. If he's at 10, that means he's gonna be the second or third highest drafted defenseman, and I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think he has him before check. I mean, this is Damian Cox for what it's worth, so I would take this with a grain of salt. Not exactly known for his scouting prowess, but he has Chekrin at 14. Now, I don't have Chekrin very high either. Like, I think I have him I think it's really there's Sergachev, there's the kid from London, and then there's Chekrin, and I like the kid from London that I can't remember his name. Ulevi. That's my guy in the draft, but
yeah,
just I don't know. I just thought it was crazy. Like I know that like size worship is still a thing, but holy cow, like that's insane.
Yeah, I like Ulevi a lot. And you, Ian, you posed this question to us earlier in the week. Who would we want to see the Sharks draft at 59?
Which actually, let me jump in. It'd be 60.
Okay,
now.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a compensation pick somewhere in there. Sorry, go ahead.
Arizona at 55, I think.
Oh, really? So it'd be 60?
Yeah.
Okay. Who would we want at 60? Well, first off, we know Doug Wilson loves to package his picks and move up, so we'll probably be drafting around 41. However, regardless, player I would like to see, maybe because his dad was one of my first favorite Sharks players of all time, I want to see Jonathan Dahlen wearing number 22 on the wing for the Sharks. Yes, that's right. Ulf Dahlen's high-scoring son will be drafted this year, and that's who I want to see up on that podium in teal.
Ian, who do you have there at 60?
Give me a second. I have like a partial skeleton of an article written that I'm writing on this, and I'm just going to give it all away on the show so you don't have to read it, which is awesome because who wants to read anyway, right?
That's why we have writer's room.
That's right, yeah. I mean,
Writer's Room podcast.
This is why we do. Instead of writing articles, we're just going to come here and we're going to talk about all the stuff we just don't feel like writing about. Dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. Where's my mock draft?
While Ian's looking that up, AJ Strong wrote a really cool article on Pucknology.net regarding his experience this entire season in the 25th anniversary of the Sharks. His experience was much better than mine, I would say, as a ticket holder. But it's a pretty awesome read, and AJ got to do a lot of cool stuff. So you should check that out, guys. And there's pictures.
He's kind of a big deal. He'll tell you. Anyway, so I got my list up. I think that the Sharks desperately need to fill in they have a look at their forward lines are fine. Like their forward crop is okay. They have two huge weaknesses. Their defensive crop is awful, and their goaltending crop is non-existent. Now, there are some goalies that could be taken, but I don't think that they're worth a second-round pick, even if it's a glorified third at this point. So my part picks have mostly been on defense. My number one pick, the guy that I would like the most, is Victor Met from the London Knights, who awesome two-way, awesome, but he's in the second round. He could be available at that pick, and I think he's a very intelligent two-way defenseman that would fit in really well. Another guy that I would like, and also could be a potential Doug Wilson draft pick because he does like to draft out of the USHL, and that would be Andrew Peak, who is a right-handed defenseman, 6'3", 200 pounds. I think that would be a guy that Doug Wilson would be interested in. There's a few others. There's like Chad Chris, who plays for the National Training Development Program in the USHL. Or you could go with a guy like, I don't think he'll be available. I don't think he's going to fall this far, but like Marcus Nimlian from Saginaw Spirit, another huge defenseman, 6'6", 195, but can actually skate. And then you have a guy like Lucas Johansson from Kelowna. So there's a few defensemen in there that I'd like to see them take a look at. If it was one of those five, I'd be ecstatic.
Ian, can I ask you something about defensemen here? I know you're more Canada-centric, and I'm more European-centric. Jacob Movrar from HV71 in Sweden.
Okay.
He got ranked, God, I don't even remember where it was, but crazy high on the International Scouting Services. I don't even think he was top 50 or top 60 at all the entire year, and then they put him at 29 for their final report. Have you heard anything about that? About him, like why he would jump up that much? Because
it's so hard it's so hard with ISS too, because they don't just rank you, they rank you by location. So like, he's 20. What do you say, 29th?
Yeah.
He's 29th European, but where does that?
No. I meant overall.
Oh, is he 20? Wow. I have no idea, to be honest. Like that's not someone who's been on my radar. But again, my bailiwick is the CHL for the most part.
Yeah.
I do catch a like.
Ask you about that, because that was like he was the biggest jump from the April report or whatever to the end of season, and I was like,
maybe he had a good World
what did
Championship.
he do to jump that high up? Because HV71 didn't really. I don't even know if they made the playoffs this year. So.
Was he on the World Championship team or?
He might have been.
Like I don't know. I just it's hard to tell. Like I'll be honest. Like to me, the World Championships, I could care less for the most part, because by that time it's like there's so much hockey going on already at that point in time. Like you have the Stanley Cup final, you have the OHL, the CHL playoffs / Memorial Cup. I have no time for the World Championships at that point.
I had to write for the World Championships last year, and it was so hard to get viewers. It was like, even with a team of people who was just devoted to just putting the content out there, it was hard to get any sort of substantial viewership because people just don't care. I mean,
No one cares.
I'd rather watch the Stanley Cup playoffs than the World Championships. Although that's how I found out about Connor Hellebuck. So
Connor Hellebuck's good.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we're at about, I think, an hour 10 here, something like that. I think it's about time we close this out. Are there any final thoughts that you guys have?
I guess I'll go first again. I think this is going to be one hell of an interesting offseason. Obviously, there's a lot of there's going to be more. I would think there's going to be more trades that are going to be out there. Of course, more a lot of trade rumors too, and of course a lot of free agents. Of course, there's the whole Steven Stamkos deal, then Kyle Okposo and whatnot, and so I think it's just gonna get more interesting, and I'm honestly curious as to how it's gonna turn out, who goes where, all that stuff, and so we'll see.
Aidan, any final thoughts?
Um, I agree with Felix. This is going to be a really interesting offseason. I'm excited to see what happens with Stamkos. I want to know what the Sharks decide to do with after Reimer leaves. I'm going to guess that they go with Dell, but who knows? And also what they do for the third line defense, if they sign anyone or or just stick with DeMello or something. But it'll definitely be exciting. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on.
Ian.
Yeah, I think my final thoughts are, see, it's funny because like I think last summer is going to be like for us, last summer would have been more sexy than this summer just because of all the drama. Like it's like, oh, hey, we were successful. We don't really have the drama to go off of, but I think it should still be a somewhat interesting offseason. I am very interested to see how they utilize their cap space. For one backup goalie, you'd have to think that if Aaron Dell was the plan, that they would have extended him already, and the fact that he's without a contract still kind of leads me to believe that that's not the plan. So I'm curious to see what the plan is and how they're gonna, spend money for a backup goaltender. I think up front, I don't think they're gonna sign any forwards. I think the thing that I'm looking forward to the most next year is hashtag Timo time. I think he's going to be on the roster next year, and everything else is going to be basically the same. With Gaudreau probably being your scratch defense, or your scratch forward. I think on defense, though, I feel like that's the two things that the Sharks are going to look at. They're going to look for a backup goalie because I don't think that they're going to want to do, look at Troy Grosnick hasn't shown me anything on the Barracuda that makes me think that he's even a backup NHL goaltender at this point. And, I think if they were comfortable with DeMello, they wouldn't have gone to get Pollock. So I don't know if DeMello is for sure the guy. Again, this is another, he's a RFA, I believe, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I think that the cap dollars are probably going D and backup.
Kevin?
Well, I am at Kevin Lacy 22. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram too, but I'm not on there very much. But anyway, this was a crazy season. It's gonna be next season's gonna be crazy too. I really like to see the fallout of roster shuffling and with the expansion coming up here. Announcement should be next week. The thing is, I don't know if I'm ready for the offseason, and yet here we are already. The advantage of making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, having your favorite team make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. The draft is next week. Free agency starts in 2.5 weeks. So, oh boy, it's going to be a fun ride, but assuming that I'm ready, I'm going to have to be ready. I'm a writer for Pucknology, and content's coming.
We are covering the draft, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Us.
All right.
Anyways, but yeah, on my end,
Sorry, Felix.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, might I add hashtag is it October yet? Because I'm already kind of starting to get hockey withdrawals. I'm not.
All right, well, I'm Drew Weber. You can find me at PuckOverGlass on Twitter. Really looking forward to this offseason. Curious to see what kind of moves the Sharks makes. Curious to see what else happens around the NHL. And we'll see how long it takes for Las Vegas to be 100% confirmed. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button below because we need as much love as we can get. We're a brand new channel.
Yes.
And we can be just as good as Pucknology After Dark, if not better. Sorry to the Pucknology After Dark people who are in the chat.
I'm not.
So yeah, please do spread the word. It would mean the world to us, and obviously a lot of exposure to Pucknology would be really, really awesome. And honestly, hopefully you guys, had fun watching this, and particularly.
All right, we'll be on soon. Thank you all for watching, and go Sharks.
Thanks, guys.